Hello, 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 everybody. This is Ebony Vaughn, and I come to you once again from Triple G Living God Goals and Grind, where we are overcoming every obstacle, we are slaying every giant, and we are walking in our God given authority and assignment on earth. I'm so excited to be here as always, as I share with you. I usually do Friday night lives, of course, on Fridays at 8:30. This weekend, I was not able to do it, so I'm here with our Friday night live late. And so, first and foremost, for those of you who are watching that may have been a part of last week's book launch, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for those who shared, whether you shared through social media or whether you were actually present. I truly believe that um, it was, well, first of all, I had an amazing time, but I also believe that it was impactful for those who watched and those who were able to participate. Guys, I'm so excited about what God is going to do in our lives in 2023. The end of 2022 was a bit busy for me, and with the launch of the book, with the completion of the book, and also with some, different things that I have going on. And one of the things that, was just that has been so important for me these last couple of weeks is just understanding the importance of seeking the guidance of the Lord as it relates to our pursuits. Sometimes we can get in a habit of doing and pursuing and not seeking God. And it is so important that we take some time to really pursue God as it relates to what we should be doing and when we should be doing it. The other thing is, it's also important for us to recognize when we need to stop doing things so that we can seek God. I hope that makes sense. As I stated, just speaking from my own experience, the last couple of months in 2022 was very busy and very challenging because not only was I working on releasing this book, but I was also working on building in other areas. And as a result of whatever your focus is, there are times when you have to sacrifice doing things that you want to do. You have to sacrifice doing things that you're accustomed to do to meet a deadline or to meet a task. But I also find that in us meeting deadlines, in us meeting tasks, in us pursuing those things that we dream about, we oftentimes forget to seek the Lord. And so today, I just want to spend a little time talking about the importance of seeking God in all of our pursuits. You know, when one of the reasons why it's so important for us to seek God in all our pursuits is because God is our source and he is our strength, and it is in and through him that we can do what we do. But when we attempt to do things in our own strength, when we attempt to do things in our own power, oftentimes we lose energy. Oftentimes we find ourselves running out of gas. Does that make sense? And so it's important for us to not only pursue our dreams and goals, but it's first and foremost important for us to pursue God as it relates to our dreams and goals. Pursue God as it relates to the task, and all of the things that we put on our plate, so that we know, okay, it's time to stop this so I can finish this. It's time to pick this up so that I can do this. And along with that is the importance of discipline as it relates to pursuing the things that you need to pursue. But back to the importance of pursuing God, you know, as we as we flow in our assignments, and as we flow in our purpose, right? Because we understand that this, flowing in our purpose is a daily process. We have to daily set an intention to seek God. And it's okay to seek God for direction in all things. It's okay. One of the things that I've found in the past is that I would say that I'm occupying my purpose, and I would say that I'm working in my purpose, but yet I wasn't seeking God where my purpose came from. And so it's important for us to understand that we always need to seek the giver of every gift, even as we implement the gifts in our lives. So listen, guys, it's nothing real heavy, nothing real deep. My encouragement to someone on today is to make sure you are pursuing God. Make sure you are seeking God in all things, in every endeavor that you experience, you're seeking God. In everything, that every task that you take on in your life, seeking God. When we think about the things that God, that we believe God is calling us to, or the things that we believe that God has placed in our life, we want to be able to preserve that. And we preserve and we become good stewards of those things that God has called us to by seeking Him, by gaining His wisdom as it relates to our assignments, gaining His wisdom as it relates to pursuing our dreams and goals. I truly believe that there is an infinite imagination that we can tap in that will help us to perfect the areas that God is sending us to. It's not just about the books. It's just not about what you're learning, your knowledge and your skill set. However, all of those things are important. But I believe the key ingredient that makes us powerful in all things, and that helps us to carry and to manage the glory of God in our lives, is our pursuit in God, our pursuit of God. Because if we are seeking daily to have more of God, right? We have more of His strength. We gain more of His knowledge, more of His wisdom. We are able to effectively perfect that assignment, and we are able to effectively perfect those things in our lives that He's calling us to. It's real simple, guys. We need to pursue God in all things. And then we also need to know when it's time for us to pick up, put down, start over, rest, relax, all of those things. We need to seek God as it relates to ordering our steps. The Bible says to acknowledge Him in all His ways, in all of our ways, and He will direct our paths. Acknowledging God in all of our ways is paramount as it relates to our pursuits. Allowing Him to direct our paths is necessary as it relates to our purpose. Okay, because when we acknowledge Him and when we allow Him to direct our paths, we are moving in synchrony with God concerning us, because that should be our desire as spirit-filled believers. So now the question becomes, God, what do I do next? Where do I go next? What should I do? How many of us ask the Lord those questions concerning us? God, what is my next move? What should I be focusing on? These are the kinds of things that we can pursue God for. Now, does this mean that we always have to do this? Maybe you already know. Maybe God is already giving you the instruction and you just proceed forward. Because I do understand that some of us have already been given the instruction, yet we have not moved. And so it's important for us to understand that once we are given the instruction, then it is up to us to acknowledge Him. It's up to us to allow Him to direct our paths, and then we must obey. be. And so it is important for us to understand this as we are seeking the Lord, as we are pursuing God in all things. I want to talk a little bit about just my experience in birthing these books. For those of you who may be coming on and you have not been following me, I have just released my book, Courage to Move. And it is this book. Move stands for maximizing your moments. It stands for overcoming your objections, valuing your vision, and embodying your extraordinary. I believe that it is an awesome book that helps us, to really, really activate the God in us so that we can be who He has called us to be, so that we can gain the strength, character, and the courage to move into the things that God has for us. So this is what I've recently released for those of you who are joining me who may not have been following me. And I want to say that, in our process of birthing, it's really important for us, like I've already talked about, to pursue God, to seek Him for direction, to acknowledge Him in all things. Those things are important, but it's also important for you to take care of yourself as you are birthing a thing, as you are releasing whatever it is that you need to release. It's important for you to take care of you. And I wanted to end there because I wanted to go back to what I talked about a few minutes in terms of sometimes when you are releasing a thing, sometimes when you are working on something, that it requires a level of focus, and it requires you to put down distractions and to stop doing things that may interfere in what you're trying to release. And this has to do with self-care, because it means that even though you want to continue doing things, you just might can't do it because there is because you have a deadline, or because you have something that you need to put your energy on. This is a part of self-care as well. And it's like, why are you talking about this, Ebony? I am talking about this because I just want to encourage someone. What is it that you have to release? What is it that you have to launch out? And what is it that you have to sacrifice so that you can get accomplished what you need to get accomplished? This is all in seeking God. And so it may require you to say, Lord, what do I need to put down just for a season? And it doesn't mean that you're going to put that thing down forever. But what it might mean is that while I am focusing on this, I cannot do that. We're talking about self-care. You are caring for yourself in the process by eliminating distractions that will prevent you from execution. This is so important because sometimes we get in a habit of we have too many projects going on at the same time and we're not completing any of them. And so oftentimes it requires us to sacrifice something so that we can get something accomplished. Now, here's the thing. Can we multitask? Can we work on multiple things at the same time and get them all accomplished? That's a question that you have to ask yourself. That's a question that you have to ask God, should I be doing? Because sometimes we enable distractions that results in a failure of completion. Okay. One of the things that I had to do is I had to think about, as I was, and I talked earlier about how the last couple of months, it was really busy for me. And so it caused me to not do my lives every weekend. It caused me to put a pause on my podcast because I knew that my focus was in this assignment. Now, there's a part of me, and I'm going to be honest with you, there's a part of me that wanted to push and get it accomplished and get everything done. But at that moment, I realized that I did not have it to give. And so I had to continue to not do those things until I was at a place to start them. And I want to talk to that person like me who likes to do. I want to speak to that person because it's okay. It's okay to sometimes stop doing things for a season so that you can get something accomplished, right? We have to remove those distractions. What are those distractions? And oftentimes I find that we pick up distractions when we are really given a charge by God to do something. You ever notice how you get an unction to do something, but then yet you get caught on social media? You find yourself scrolling on social media too long, or you find yourself getting distracted by by going out, or maybe you start putting a lot of stuff on your plate. Now, you know what God told you to do, but now all of a sudden you've become distracted by your distractions. And we have to be careful with this because we sacrifice the will of God for our lives because we've allowed ourselves to be distracted. And that's why it is important for us to acknowledge God in all things so that he can direct our paths. We got to acknowledge the Lord. We have to acknowledge him. And then we have to learn what to pick up and put down in that season of movement in that area. And I gave my testimony about how the last couple of months I've been busy releasing this book. So that meant I couldn't do my live every week like I liked. I could not do, my podcasts like I like to do every week. These are things that bring me joy. But sometimes the things that brings you joy can be a distraction from an assignment that God has you on, which means that you have to sacrifice what brings you joy for a little bit. Not that it's not God, but just that I need you to focus on this, Ebony. I need you to focus on this. And so it's important for us to understand that. And we don't, and for those of us who might feel like we are giving up on something, or we don't want to stop something. We want to keep the momentum. Momentum is good when you are in alignment with God's timing. Momentum is good. But if God tells you to stop something because he needs you to focus on this, you got to stop. If God tells you, I need you to birth this thing, then you got to stop those things so that you can birth that thing. Now, I am big on multitasking. Yes, I am. And I'm doing a lot of, and I can do a lot of things at the same time. But when God says no, guys, we have to obey him. We have to obey him, and we have to push through so that that thing can be released, so that thing can be birthed. So we have to remove those distractions in our lives that we put there. What are some distractions that you're putting in your life right now, and they're in the way of what God is instructing you to do? Right. And somebody wrote, I put a lot of my worth in doing. Absolutely. Doing and being is different. And we have to learn how to be, which is connected to our identity and our relationship with the Lord, which then should result in our doing, which is our execution, which is the will of God being executed in our lives. But again, we are to first be. And so what happens with those of us who put a lot of our worth in doing, what we focus on is, okay, I got to keep doing this because I feel good. I got to keep doing this because I feel good. But that becomes a distraction, because if you're supposed to be doing this over there and you're supposed to be completing it and seeing it through, if you're busy trying to be a busybody, then you might not see it through. And it's all about executing the plan of God in our lives. It's all about obtaining our dreams and obtaining our goals and being in alignment with God's rhythm in our lives. And, all of these things are important, and it's a pursuit and an intention that I have not to be distracted. Because here's my desire: to empty out. Here's my desire: whatever God has called me to do, I want to be able to do it. And if sacrificing what I want, or sacrificing what I feel I need to do, right, it is important, then that's what I need to do. And my encouragement to someone who's listening is to learn to be focused, is to learn to be diligent in a thing, right? Diligent in that thing that God is calling you to. And then also being willing to be obedient to his instruction. What is God instructing you to do today that requires you to put down something that you're doing today? That's what this live is about today. This live is about my challenge and my encouragement to you today to put down those things in your life that is robbing you of the execution of God's will in your life. And guess what? Sometimes we got to seek God to know what that is, because we're not always conscious of it. We're not always conscious of those blockers, those things. Why? Because we enjoy doing them. We're not always conscious of the distractions, because some of those distractions we like. Do you hear what I'm saying? Like, some of the distractions we want to do. So we don't always know whether or not God is saying, please put it down for a season, because I need your focus here. Right? That is something. It's not saying that it's wrong. It's not saying that it's bad. And I'm going to tell you something. There's a tendency, because I've been there, done that, and probably will in the future. There's a tendency that when God tells us to put something down, we assume that it's wrong or it's of the devil. And it might not be. It doesn't mean that it's wrong for it to be a distraction. Because we can be distracted by good things. We can be distracted by productive things, things that are a blessing to other people, but they're not a blessing to us because it distracts us from the will of God. Does that make sense? So it's important for us to understand that. Listen. I hope that this short live has encouraged you, in a way where you will be mindful about what God is saying to you regarding your assignment in this season. And then you will be willing to sacrifice the things that you are doing that you just might like and you just might have pleasure in, but that you would be willing to sacrifice them for a season so that you can execute God's will, so that you can remove anything that would stop you from bringing that forward. Hey, Jaton. I was today years old when I learned productive things can be distracting. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, those things can be productive, but still be a distraction. We got to get stuff done in our lives, guys. We got to get stuff done. Time out for year after year, going through year after year, and then turning back and saying to yourself, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I accomplish that? It's time out for that. We have to be intentional about having purpose-driven lives, and we can do that through God. We can do that through God. But we need to gain that intimate and personal relationship with the Lord so that he can guide us in all things, so that he can gird us in all things. For those of you who are watching this, you know me and you know, all of the things that I do, and I can do nothing without the Lord. But you're talking about a full-time job, a full-time practice, teaching at a college and a university, ministering. You're talking about coaching and providing supervision and helping to build you know, social workers and all of the things that I do. But guess what? In all things that I am supposed to do, God strengthens me. Did you hear that? In all things that I am supposed to do, God strengthens me. And I truly believe that that should be our frame of reference as spirit-filled believers. We need a relationship with God. We need a pursuit in God. And then as a result of our pursuit in God, all other things will flow out of our lives. And as we acknowledge him, he will direct our paths. And as the Lord direct our paths, our intention should be to obey him. And in obeying him, we must be willing to get rid of all the distractions, whether productive or unproductive, that will prevent us from execution in our lives. God bless you, everyone. Have an amazing weekend. Get some rest, but also, and more importantly, get to work. Get to doing the business of the Lord. Thank you. Bye-bye.